Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a deep cut into 20th century American letters. We're going to explore an author who critics consistently praise, but who remains, largely unknown outside of his one big success.
That's right.
We are talking about Mark Harris.
Yeah, Mark Harris, a novelist, a literary biographer, professor. His life was just a fascinating mirror of the very themes he wrote about.
It really was.
When most people hear the name Mark Harris, if they know it, they think, bang the drum slowly.
Yeah.
That classic baseball novel.
Yeah, exactly.
But as we unpack the sources today, you find this life just defined by like 4 decades of intense academic work, sharp journalism, and this incredible output of fiction, really focused on social critique.
So our mission today is kind of to move beyond the dugout.
Totally. Explore the extraordinary, multifaceted career of this writer. He often felt like he was under the radar, despite his talent.
And we actually have his own words to guide us, which is perfect. He summed up his books himself.
Oh, yeah. What did he say?
He said they were, and this is a quote, about the one man against his society and trying to come to terms with his society and trying to succeed within it without losing his own identity or integrity.
Wow. That's it, isn't it?
That tension, success versus moral survival, it feels like the engine behind everything he did, every book.
It's the perfect lens. Born Mark Harris Finkelstein, Mount Vernon, New York, 1922.
Right.
And yeah, he crafted the famous Henry Wiggen quartet, those baseball novels, Bang the Drum Slowly, the big one. Lived a long, productive life, passed away in Santa Barbara back in 2007, age 84.
Right.
But to really get that integrity piece he championed, we have to start right at the beginning with this kind of foundational conflict that really kicked off his career.
Okay, let's do that. Let's unpack this theme, identity, the price of integrity. Go right back to 1940. He's just out of high school, looking for work. What's the first big defining act?
It's a huge one. He changes his name. Born Mark Harris Finkelstein. In 1940, right after graduation, drops the Finkelstein completely. Just becomes Mark Harris.
Wow. Okay. And do the sources give explicit reasons for this? I mean, that's a pretty dramatic step.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't casual. It was presented as, a professional necessity, driven by prejudice, basically.
Okay.
He stated pretty explicitly that he dropped the surname because, and this is his reasoning, it was a difficult time for kids with Jewish names to get jobs.
Right. So right at the start, launching his career,
Yeah.
he has to make this compromise.
A profound one. To succeed in the very society he's about to spend his life critiquing, he first has to mask a core part of his identity.
That sets such a tone, doesn't it? The central theme of his life's work, succeeding without losing integrity. It's immediately complicated by this, pragmatic sacrifice just to get in the door.
Absolutely. It must have given him this deep, almost painful awareness of those social barriers.
Yeah, baked in from day one. He knew what society demanded, what the cost was.
Exactly. But at the same time, you see this other side developing, this intense devotion to truth, to observation. And it starts really early.
You're talking about the diary?
The diary. It's almost unbelievable. The sources say he started keeping a daily diary when he was just 11 years old.
11.
11. And what's truly astonishing is he kept it up every single day for the rest of his life.
Wait, every day? No breaks?
Every single day. We're talking over 7 decades of continuous writing, self-analysis, recording detail.
What a credible dedication.
It really is.
Yeah.
And you can see how that kind of commitment to introspection, to precise documentation, becomes the bedrock for his writing style later. That very grounded, realist approach.
A writer who commits to that kind of meticulous record for 70 years. That's someone who believes deeply in observed truth.
Absolutely.
And this need to confront reality, document it, it gets tested almost immediately by the war.
Right. World War II. Harris gets drafted into the U.S. Army, January 1943. And his experience there, it quickly becomes this crucible. Well, he wasn't just, a reluctant soldier. He developed this serious, growing opposition to the war itself. And that gets compounded, really exacerbated by his anger over the racial discrimination he saw, pervasive in the Army at the time.
Okay, so this deep moral political outrage, it doesn't just sit there. He acts on it.
He does, dramatically, which tells you a lot about his commitment to that integrity idea, even when it's risky.
What did he do?
He chose confrontation. In February 1944, he went AWOL, absent without leave, from Camp Wheeler, Georgia.
Oh, during wartime. That's serious.
Very serious. And it wasn't just, skipping out for a bit. It seems like it was a deliberate act of protest, defiance against the military structure, which for him probably represented that rigid, discriminatory society he already felt alienated from.
Wow. Okay, so what happens? High stakes move.
He gets arrested pretty quickly, but then crucially, he's hospitalized. The official diagnosis was psychoneurosis.
Okay.
But here's the key detail, the outcome. He receives an honorable discharge, April 1944.
An honorable discharge? After going AWOL and being hospitalized for psychoneurosis?
Exactly.
That is fascinating in itself. It's like he navigated the system, he challenged it to the breaking point, but somehow emerged with his reputation, his honor, intact. It almost perfectly mirrors that theme you mentioned.
The individual versus society, finding a way.
Yeah. The lived contradiction. That must have fueled his art.
Absolutely. He found a way to resist, and that experience becomes immediate raw material. His first novel, Trumpet to the World, comes out in 1946.
Just 2 years after his discharge.
Right. And that book, along with Something About a Soldier later in 57, they directly channel that wartime experience, the outrage over racial injustice, the military rigidity.
So his early life is just this intense period. Social friction, dropping the name, going AWOL, and every conflict just pours straight into his fiction.
You got it. The struggle isn't just his theme, it's his autobiography, in a way.
It makes the writing feel so necessary, not abstract at all.
Exactly. It's processed directly from lived experience under duress. That pressure cooker defined his voice. Realist, critic.
That intensity is amazing, especially when you think about how unstable his professional life was right after the war.
Oh, completely.
Let's trace that, this next phase. He's juggling everything, right? Yeah. Journalism, academia, trying to be a novelist.
The sources really paint a picture of just relentless hustle. After the discharge in April 44, he jumps right into journalism. May 44, the daily item in Port Chester, New York.
But it doesn't stick, right?
No, stability was elusive. Constantly moving, changing roles. He goes to New York City, works for PM, that progressive newspaper.
Right, I've heard of that one. Short-lived, though.
Yeah, and he was only there 2 months before getting fired.
Fired, okay. So just maybe a clash, or just that restless idealism, maybe.
Could be. The instability continues, but you have to think this is phenomenal training for a novelist aiming for realism.
Right. Good point. Where next?
St. Louis. International News Service, July 45. And it's there, amidst all this chaos, that he meets Josephine Horan, his coworker.
And marries her.
Yep, March 1946. But even that connection doesn't really anchor the job situation. He resigns just 4 months later.
Wow. That sounds exhausting, constant flux, geographically, professionally.
It really was. An intense grind. Basically up until 1948. We see him pop up in Albuquerque, writing for the Albuquerque Journal.
Okay.
Then Chicago. And this is interesting. He's writing for publications focused on Black life, like Negro Digest and Ebony.
Ah, so that commitment to social justice, the stuff that fueled his AWOL protest, it's showing up in his journalism choices, too.
Absolutely. It's consistent. And then finally, back to New York for the Park Row News Service.
Okay, we need to pause here, because while he's doing this frantic, short-term journalism scramble, moving, getting fired, moving again, he somehow finishes and publishes his first novel, Trumpet to the World.
Right, 1946.
That says everything about his commitment, doesn't it? The literary mission was just non-negotiable, even when his life was completely unstable.
That's the core commitment. And, the journalism itself, even if it was chaotic, must have fed the writing immensely. Bouncing around cities, different communities, writing for Ebony, that gives you a raw, unvarnished look at America.
Yeah, the foundation for that authenticity his novels are known for.
Definitely. And it seems like that period of intense, maybe draining realism spurred a change, a strategic pivot.
Towards something more structured.
Exactly. The journalism hustle finally leads him to academia.
Okay.
February 1948, he enrolls at the University of Denver. Big shift. He gets his master's in English in 51.
And he kept going.
Oh, yeah. He clearly saw the value in deep scholarly grounding. He gets a PhD in American Studies in the University of Minnesota. Finishes that in 56.
And his PhD topic, that's really revealing, isn't it? About his politics, his interests.
Absolutely. His dissertation was on Randolph Bourne.
The progressive writer.
Yeah, the intellectual. Bourne was famous for opposing U.S. involvement in World War I. His essay, War is the Health of the State, huge critique of how war empowers government, suppresses dissent.
So for Harris, who went AWOL during a war, Choosing Bourne is like this massive academic validation of his own lifelong stance, the individual resisting the state.
It's a perfect connection. He's using his academic platform to kind of legitimize the very conflict he lived through. And after the doctorate, he moves into teaching. A really long career as an educator.
How long are we talking?
Nearly 5 decades. Starts September 56, San Francisco State College. He stays there for 11 years, until 67. That must have felt like incredible stability after all the earlier moving around.
11 years in one place, yeah. But then he's since moving again, within academia this time.
Seems like it. A succession of pretty major university posts, but often shorter stays. Purdue, 67 to 70.
Okay.
California Institute of the Arts, 70 to 73. University of Southern California, 73 to 75. University of Pittsburgh, 76 to 8.
So he's circulating through some big writing programs. Highly sought after, clearly.
Definitely. Reflects his growing reputation as both a writer and a professor.
And where did he finally land, his longest academic home?
That was Arizona State University, ASU. He joins the faculty there in September 1980, professor of English, mostly teaching creative writing, and he stays there until he retires in 2001.
21 years, wow.
Yeah. So 21 years nurturing the next generation. It's such a contrast to that chaotic start in journalism, isn't it?
It's a really powerful trajectory, from frantic newsrooms to revered, tenured professor. What do we know about his philosophy of writing during this academic time, how he saw the writer and reader?
We get a fantastic insight, actually, thanks to the literary critic Wayne Seaboot.
Oh, yeah, from The Rhetoric of Fiction.
That's the one. In that really influential 1961 book, Booth actually quotes Harris, calls him a fine young novelist.
Yeah, okay.
And he uses Harris to illustrate this core principle about narrative style and what readers should expect.
And this goes right back to his realism, rejecting hand-holding.
Exactly. Harris's quote was, "You will no more expect the novelist to tell you precisely how something is said than you will expect him to stand by your chair and hold your book."
Huh. That's brilliant. Succinct. It's like a declaration of literary integrity, respect the reader's intelligence.
Totally. The writer creates the authentic world, the vernacular, the detail. But you, the reader, you have to engage, interpret. The writer doesn't do it for you.
It's a demanding view. Very modern.
It is. And just to show you the mix of high principle and, well, pragmatism.
Yeah.
In 1960, while he's teaching at San Francisco State, he actually appears as a guest contestant on You Bet Your Life.
Groucho Marx's show? No way.
Yes. Apparently using that very popular platform to promote his latest book.
That's fantastic. The ultimate synthesis, right? Integrity and hustle. Appearing on Groucho to sell serious literature.
Gotta do what you gotta do, I guess.
Okay, so let's pivot now to the work he is absolutely best known for. The Henry Wiggen Quartet. Bang the drum slowly. This is where that theme, individual navigating society, finds its most, well, accessible platform. And maybe its most profitable one.
Definitely the most profitable. So, the Henry Wiggen Quartet, 4 novels, all about professional baseball, all narrated by the same guy, Henry Arthur Wiggen.
Pitcher for the fictional New York Mammoths.
Right. And the defining thing right away is the voice. They're written almost entirely in American vernacular. Very immediate, authentic, voice-driven.
And they span a good chunk of his career. The Southpaw in 53.
Bang the Drum Slowly in 56. A Ticket for a Steam Stitch in 57.
And then a big gap.
Yeah, much later. It looked like forever in 1979.
But the anchor is clearly Bang the Drum Slowly.
Oh, absolutely. The sources confirm this was Harris's only true popular success. The story. It's intense, focuses on the relationship between Wiggen, the star pitcher, and his teammate Bruce Pearson, the catcher.
Oh, is that
right? Diagnosed with a fatal illness, Hodgkin's disease, and the team, the Mammoths, they become this microcosm of society, grappling with mortality, loyalty, class differences within the team.
And that story just resonated hugely. Multiple adaptations, right, cemented its place in pop culture.
Instantly. The novel's power was obvious. 1956, the year it's published, it gets adapted for TV, the United States Steel Hour.
Which was a big deal back then. Prestige television.
Huge deal. And get this casting. Paul Newman plays Henry Wiggen.
No, man.
And Albert Salmi plays Bruce Pearson, the catcher. That immediately gave it massive visibility.
Incredible. And then the movie, the 1973 film, maybe even more famous now.
That film really solidified it in cinema history. John D. Hancock directed it, Michael Moriarty as Wiggen.
And Robert De Niro.
And Robert De Niro as Bruce Pearson, a really crucial early role for De Niro, showcasing that ability he had to inhabit these complex, vulnerable characters.
Absolutely.
And importantly, the sources note, Harris himself wrote the screenplay for the 73 film.
Oh, he did? That's significant.
Yeah. Speaks volumes about his commitment to controlling the narrative integrity. making sure the transfer from page to screen honored his grounded, realistic vision.
That's rare for an author to successfully shepherd their own work into a major film like that and keep the artistic fidelity.
Very rare. And the story wasn't done yet. It even got adapted for the stage.
Really?
Yeah, a stage version played at the Next Theater in Evanston, Illinois in 1992. Just shows the enduring power of that relationship, those themes, loyalty, mortality. They work everywhere.
Okay, let's talk critical assessment, because this is where the argument for Harris's maybe genius really lies. It wasn't just popular. Critics say these books redefined the baseball novel.
The praise is immense. Nicholas Dowadoff, editor of Baseball. A literary anthology, gave this defining quote. So the 4 Wiggen books elevate the baseball novel into unmistakable art.
Unmistakable art. That's placing him right at the top, within that specific genre, but also in the broader American literary canon.
Absolutely. And then there's Roger K. Miller, writing for the Denver Post. He does this really interesting comparison, putting Harris directly against other famous baseball novels. Helps us see why Harris's approach felt different, maybe superior to some.
Who did he compare him to?
Well, Miller went all out praising Harris. He even used the full, amazing title, Bang the Drum Slowly, by Henry J. Wiggen, certain of his enthusiasms restrained.
Huh. Love that title.
Right. And Miller claimed it was better than Bernard Malamud's The Natural.
Better than The Natural. Wow. Why? What was the argument? Malamud's book is iconic.
The distinction comes down to realism versus fantasy, which brings us right back to Harris's core integrity thing.
Okay.
Malamud, The Natural, it uses magical realism, right? Myth, legend, the supernatural hero, the symbolic bat.
Right, Wonder Boy.
Exactly. Miller, and critically, Harris himself, they favored a much starker reality. The sources are explicit. Harris did not like fantasy, especially in baseball. For him, baseball was this working class, deeply human drama. Introducing fantasy, it kind of corrupted the social critique potential.
So his preference for realism in baseball wasn't just a taste thing. It was philosophical, aligning the genre with his bigger mission.
Precisely. And Miller also compared Harris favorably to Robert Coover's experimental classic, The Universal Baseball Association.
Another complex one.
Yeah, Miller said Harris's novel was at least as good as Coover's, which is high praise. Coover's book is about a fantasy game, but Miller notes, like Harris's and all good baseball novels, it's about more than just baseball.
Right.
But the key difference is method. Coover uses fantasy and experimental structure to explore deep truths. Harris uses pure, observed, vernacular realism to do the same thing. His integrity demanded that the backdrop, the baseball world, feel absolutely real, grounded in social reality.
That grounding, the specific details, language, social hierarchy, that's what let the Wiggen novels be more than just sports fiction. They're about death, class, loyalty.
Filtered through that honest, sometimes naive narrator voice, Henry Wiggen. That voice is just essential. Harris nails that authenticity, not through fancy literary language, but through this immediate, accessible vernacular. Captures the sound of the locker room, the kind of blunt honesty of that world.
Another facet of his dedication to observe truth.
Exactly.
The baseball novel is clearly a massive achievement. But like we said at the start, just one piece of this incredible output, let's broaden out again. Section 4. The sheer diversity. Social novels, plays, biographies, and his own autobiographical work.
Yeah, we definitely need to circle back to that first novel, Trumpet to the World, 1946.
Born from the war experience.
Right, and it immediately establishes him as a serious social novelist, tackling this explosive topic.
A young black soldier married to a white woman on trial for hitting a white officer.
Published right as the civil rights movement is really gathering steam. Very relevant.
And incredibly relevant. Showed his finger was right on the pulse of critical American issues from the get-go. And his second wartime novel, Something About a Soldier, that even got adapted for Broadway.
It did, briefly. Stage version by Ernest Kinoy, January '62, starred Sal Mineo.
Sal Mineo, wow.
Yeah. Shows his social critiques had reach, commercial and artistic, across different platforms. And Harris also wrote his own original play, Friedman and Son, in '63.
Okay, so fiction, drama, and then his academic side shows up in serious scholarship, too. Biography, editing.
Right. He wasn't just making stuff up. He was digging into others' lives, too. 2 significant literary biographies. First one, City of Discontent, an interpretive biography of Vachel Lindsay back in '52.
Vachel Lindsay, the poet.
Yeah, complex guy. Troubled, known for his populist spirit, trying to bring poetry back to the people. You can see the connection, right? Harris and his commitment to accessible democratic writing.
Kindred spirits, maybe. And the second biography, Another literary giant.
Saul Bellow. Drumlin Woodchuck, published in 1980.
Bellow. Okay. Another major Jewish American writer wrestling with identity, modern life.
Exactly. Clearly a significant subject for Harris. These choices just underscore his consistent interest in writers navigating those complex social, cultural identities.
And he put serious time into editing, too, bringing other figures to light.
Absolutely. He edited selected poems of Vachel Lindsay in '63, continuing that early interest. But maybe the biggest editing job was on James Boswell.
Boswell, Samuel Johnson's Boswell.
That's the one.
Yeah.
In 1981, he published The Heart of Boswell, 6 journals in one volume. Imagine the work involved, synthesizing all that 18th century material.
That's incredible versatility. Baseball players, American poets, Jewish novelists, and now editing Boswell's journals.
And even that work got adapted. The Boswell editing led to 2 television plays, Boswell for the Tenfin in '83 and Boswell's London Journal in '84.
It just shows this effortless movement, doesn't it? Contemporary American vernacular, 1 minute, deep historical scholarship the next, always focused on authentic human life.
That's the thread.
But maybe the most revealing part of his whole body of work is when he turned that lens on himself, the autobiographical trilogy.
Oh yeah, this is essential for understanding Harris. He didn't just write standard memoirs. It was more like deep, embedded self-documentation, often putting himself right in the middle of charged situations, specifically to chronicle them.
Okay, let's take the first one. Mark the Glove Boy, or The Last Days of Richard Nixon.
Published '64. It chronicles Nixon's failed run for California governor in '62. Harris literally embedded himself in the campaign.
As the Glove Boy, what does that mean?
It's like who? The small peripheral figure, the observer who's there but not powerful, documenting the big political machine from the inside but slightly removed. He used his journalist's eye on the spectacle, the mechanics of political theater, political failure. He was there for Nixon's famous last press conference, you won't have Nixon to kick around anymore.
Wow, so he needed that immersion, not critiquing from afar, but right there, like a field reporter.
Exactly. And that immersion continues in the next autobiographical book. Takes him way outside American politics.
Where to?
Sierra Leone. The book is 21 Twice. A journal. Published '66. It chronicles his time in the Peace Corps there.
He joined the Peace Corps.
Yeah. Again, not just observing. Actively participating in this idealism-driven thing in a totally new environment, putting his own values under real-world strain. It's a journal of self-discovery through service, far from academia or baseball.
And then the third piece, the formal autobiography.
Right. Best father ever invented. The autobiography of Mark Harris, 1976. This one pulls it all together. His life from late adolescence up to '73. The name change, the war, the journalism chaos, the early academic and literary success.
These 3 books together, they just show this commitment to radical honesty, documentation, living out the realist principle he applied to his fiction.
Absolutely.
It's incredible, reflecting on the sheer volume, but also the thematic cohesion across all these genres. He keeps coming back to that core theme. Individual integrity versus society, whether it's a dying catcher, a poet, or himself in Africa.
And this is why people use that under-the-radar phrase so much with him. His obituary in the Denver Post nailed it. One of that legion of under-the-radar writers who for decades consistently turned out excellent novels and went largely unsung.
Maybe too principled, too dedicated to pure realism to chase the kind of fame fantasy might have brought.
Could be. He stuck to his guns.
And returning to that core philosophy, it really does all circle back to that quote you shared earlier.
Yeah. His life's work, dedicated to stories about the one man against his society and trying to come to terms with his society and trying to succeed within it without losing his own identity or integrity.
He lived it, starting with the name change through the AWOL incident and channeling it all into his writing, his teaching, his scholarship.
Exactly.
And it's interesting, too, that continuation of this critical, maybe documentarian impulse in his family. His nephew is a writer, too.
Yeah, Said Serafiazadeh, also a highly regarded writer. He wrote that powerful memoir, When Skateboards Will Be Free, a memoir of a political childhood.
Fascinating. Like that dedication to writing, critical observation, it's a persistent legacy.
It seems so. And, for anyone listening who wants to dive even deeper into Harris's mind,
Yeah.
all his papers, including those 70-plus years of diaries, they're archived. Special collections at the University of Delaware.
Yeah.
An incredibly rich resource for anyone studying 20th century American literature.
What an immense legacy. Art and self-documentation intertwined. Okay, so to leave you with a final thought, reflecting on this whole challenging life.
Yeah.
We know he felt he had to change his name. Mark Harris Finkelstein became Mark Harris. just to survive, get a job, achieve success early on.
Right. A pragmatic choice driven by prejudice.
Yet the work he created was defined by this absolute, unwavering commitment to authenticity, to integrity, especially that famous rejection of fantasy demanding grounded realism. So it raises this really interesting question for you, the listener, to think about. What does it really cost an artist or anyone ambitious to make those initial compromises with a biased society just to get in the door?
And how does that early struggle, that compromise of identity, maybe paradoxically, end up sharpening and defining the very unmistakable art they create later?
Right. Harris sought integrity through realism. But the path to that art was paved with this initial act of, well, assimilation. Why was that realism so crucial for him? Perhaps because of that early experience.
Something to chew on. What's the real relationship between compromise and artistic integrity?
A profound challenge as you reflect on the diverse, complex, and fiercely principled life of Mark Harris. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.